Okay, good morning. So first of all, welcome and thank you. My name is Denise Lones. I live in Whatcom County. I love Whatcom County. I've been here for many, many years. I'm going to give you a 60-second bio just so you know a little bit about me. I started my real estate career, I will call it, up in Canada. I worked did a lot of new construction projects in Canada, and I have to say that we could learn a lot from what they're doing up in Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. So I started up there working with builders and developers. My passion really is trying to figure out what's the right thing to build where. So really understanding demographics is important because I really believe also that no matter what you do in the building industry, we are very connected, right? So I really believe whether you're a builder, developer, engineer, planner, I really strongly advocate for us to all kind of get together and be on the same page and have open, honest conversations, because we're not going to solve anything unless we do that. So today's class is about, okay, why is it so important when you're doing anything in new construction? Why do you have to really pay attention to what's going on, not just with people, but what's going on around, right? So their values, their age, their generation, their preferences. And also it's not just about anymore buying a piece of land and saying, if I build something, they will come. Because today I'm going to show you I'll show you a project today from one of my favorite builders on the planet. And I'll show you what they're dealing with right now because they failed to get the demographic right. So even the best builders and developers can make mistakes. And I just really want to help everybody not make mistakes because I think you guys are my friends, even though I also develop. I think we all need to help each other. And I think that there's been I did a lot of work in Seattle. There's a lot of competition down there and nobody wants to share things. So just so you know, anything that I show you today, if you want it, any numbers, any documents, you guys can contact me anytime. I'm really big on sharing. So we all know that we're in a very interesting time for new construction because even though right now you'll hear people talking about, I'm also a real estate analyst, so I analyze markets all across the country. You will hear in the news, this is what you hear all day long. Oh, interest rates have doubled, housing market is going down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But that's not really the correct headline. The correct headline should say, interest rates have doubled. All that's done is put two very important demographics waiting on the fence. Number one, we've got a lot of buyers waiting to buy right now. They're just waiting for that moment. So please don't stop building. Then on top of that, we have not just the buyers, we've got all those sellers that are kind of interest rate locked right now because they don't want to move. They don't want to move because they're giving up that low interest rate loan. So there are, by the way, solutions coming for that. When those solutions happen, that's going to absolutely open the market up, and that will again bring inventory. Now, I'm going to talk some boring stats first, and then I'm going to talk what's more important, which is the demographics. So we have been, in essence, we overbuilt in the early 2000s. And when we did that, and in that time period, I was doing a lot of work down in Vegas and Arizona, a lot of those areas that were really booming. We did so much overbuilding, and then in 2008, the market absolutely, as we know, crashed, whatever word you want to use. We have been underbuilding so much, and what we have to think about is the fact that we must have a certain amount of units for certain things. So for example, just for demolition, we need just houses are demolished and they've finished their life expectancy. We need that. We have household formation. By the way, this is a horrible stat that I'm about to tell you. And if you're in this age group, please do not get mad at me. But the most popular time right now to get a divorce is between the ages of 55 and 65. So if you're in that age group, be really nice to your spouse because they might be mad at you. So what's happening is, it's true. I mean, it's true. And it totally changes household formation. Because imagine if you have two people living in one house and now they separate, now you have double houses needed. So and I just think that people get to the point at that age where they're done. And there's too many opportunities out there. And the online dating world has changed that. Used to be 20 years ago, people would be like, where am I going to meet someone? And today it's different. So what's happening is socially we're changing. We have to pay attention to those things because they do make a difference. So statistically, we need it. I have for the last 15 years been using the national number of 1,620,000 units. That's what we need nationally. And in a few minutes, we're going to go into specifically Whatcom County. While that is a great, that number is just a number, we haven't been able to meet that, sustain it, keep it going. We haven't been building enough. We have been accumulating this very large shortage for a very long time. Now, Fannie Mae is just coming out with their new numbers, and I won't give you the official number yet till Fannie Mae stamps it. However, John Burns, and I love John Burns, great real estate consulting gentleman, they actually announced 1.72 million. I actually think it's going to be closer to 1.75. So I'm going to keep my prediction of 1.75, and we'll probably know about that early January. Regardless, this is 100 to 130,000 units more per year. Now, here's what's really interesting. So I study real estate markets, and there's something called the steroid market, which we were in for 3 years. A steroid market is where, well, let's have a look at a steroid market. This is Whatcom County. A steroid market occurs when prices are rising so quickly, and they're not rising based on employment, growth. They're just rising based on the fact that we don't have enough inventory. If we go back and look at Whatcom County, and I just spoke about this on a panel last week, Whatcom County, we went up we doubled in almost literally, I would say 4 years, and in just under 36 months, it was 33.2% price increase. That is incredible. Now, while some people say that's great, it's great if you own property. It's great if you're building and you can sell and make those great profits, but it isn't good for the health overall, because who can't buy in that kind of market? Who is not able to buy when prices rise that quickly, 33% in 36 months? Okay, I'll give you one example. My 31-year-old son can't buy. So what happens is, while we're good to go, right? Unfortunately, a lot of our kids are not. And what's happening is that generation that we desperately need to get into housing, we can't get them into housing. So while it's good for some, it's actually catastrophic long term. Now, there is this saying, and it drives me crazy, and that is, if you build it, they will come. So let me go back here for 1 second. Okay, let's go back. In Whatcom County, for example, even though interest rates doubled, interest rates started rising in May of 2022. That's when the market actually absolutely peaked. Now, in a market, there's never been a market before in our history, well, since I've been alive, and I've been tracking numbers since 1954. So I track all the numbers from 1954 forward, because they're very telling, by the way, and frankly, can't get much data before that. So 1954 is the number. We have never seen a market ever where interest rates have doubled. Interest rates have doubled, but median sale price has not plummeted, right? So if interest rates double, this is a very important fact. Perry, write it down. It's super important. I see you writing. So Perry, never in the history, never in our history have we ever seen a market where interest rates have doubled, and at that same moment in time, home prices haven't plummeted. So what's happened, and I study numbers every single week. So here's what's happening in Whatcom County right now. Do you know that last year versus this year, when we look at our median sell prices, there hasn't been a decline. We are still right there. It's like we can't get that number to come down. Now, that's a very simple answer. It's driven by lack of supply. But why we are here and why this is so important is because we can't believe anymore that just because you build it, people are going to buy it. However, if you build it right, you will be very, very profitable. But you have to build it right. So what is building it right? And I'm going to explain some thoughts on that. So if we look and we go back in time and we look at what's happened in Whatcom County, when you have a median sale price that just keeps going up and up and up, and you see when the blue line, that inventory line keeps declining. So when we look at our active listings, that number has continued to decline, and we don't have enough builders in Whatcom County to build what we need to build. We don't. Now, it breaks my heart when I see developments that fail. I hate it. It makes me so sad. And I had other people say, and it makes me nuts. Oh, that's your competition. Don't worry about them. I literally am sick to my stomach every time I see a failed development, because we are all in this, we're on the same team. If you build it, they will come, is what a lot of builders do. The other thing is a lot of builders tend to build the same thing over and over and over again. The problem is, what if it's not the right demographic? What if it's not the right product type? What if it's not in the right area? Okay. Now you can be stuck with the worst location, the worst piece of land. But if you build it right, they will come. I can show you, if you build it right, I can show you developments that are in such horrible locations. But if you build what that demographic is willing to pay in that area, and if you build right for them, you can be very successful, okay? So this doesn't work anymore. You have to build it right. You can no longer just build it. And what a lot of people do is they start with, oh, I've got this piece of land. And the first thing they do, I'll tell you the first step is, Craig, don't get mad at me. That's what they do. Hi, Craig, I have a piece of land. Could you tell me, please, what could I do with that land? And then Craig's going to tell them from an engineering point what you could do, how many lots can go on it, what the infrastructure is going to be. Okay, that's Craig's job. However, what are you going to build on that? What's the demographic? Very few people start with the demographic. So that's what I really want to focus on for the next hour, okay? Whether it's buyers, whether it's renters, okay? It doesn't matter whether it's new construction of beautiful homes, whether it's new construction of supported housing, the demographic has to be there. You have to sit down and really ask yourself, what is the demographic of this? You also have to think about what people want today, and that is they want communities, right? They want something that has that community feel. So why is it that some properties, some developments, people will line up to buy? Why is it? And others, all you're seeing is reduced pricing, for sale, builder incentives, right? So what the reason is, you got the demographic wrong. And sometimes your own building style may not work for that particular demographic. So we all have a particular type of product that we like, right? It's very different building what you like versus building what is right. And that's the hardest thing. That's always been the hardest part of my job. But I want to tell you what I've done in the last 20 years and why it's helped me to get to the point of where I'm at today. Okay, so first and foremost, every failed project leaves clues. There isn't a project I've ever been to that isn't doing well, where within about, I would say, 8 hours, I can't tell you exactly what's wrong. Failed projects leave clues that are so big that oftentimes they're so in front of you that sometimes the builder developer is too close to it, they can't see it, or sometimes it's so small that it takes time. Now I'm going to show you a funny slide. I didn't make this slide. Shauna made this slide for me. This is supposed to be a picture of me parachuting into, I used to say this all the time, because my job used to be, so I'm a judge with the National Association of Home Builders. I'm also a MERM with NAHB. So because of that, I stopped traveling a few years ago, as my mom's now 93 and I want to be close to home. I don't want to travel. So I stopped, I retired from big travel a few years ago. So my day job was flying somewhere to a development that was having trouble. And my job was to help fix it. What's wrong with that development? What did they do right or wrong? And you're going to see a lot of stars. So I've been a lot of places in the country, a lot more coastal than right in the middle of the country. But I would go into, let's say, Vegas or Colorado or New Jersey or all over the country, and I would land on the plane. I'd get off of the plane, and now my job was to learn the market, figure out, you can't just go to a development and say, why did this not sell? I would stay there sometimes a week, and I would, in that week time, first I learned the market. Then I look generally the resale market, because the resale market's very telling of new construction market. Then I would go to the development. Then I would try to figure out what demographic would buy here. Then I would sit and watch who was coming into that development, who was attracted by the marketing. Sometimes the marketing was so wrong that I'd be looking at the marketing and I'd go, okay, I'm expecting from the marketing, I'm expecting somebody to come in here probably 30 to 40 years old, probably, you know, young families. And I was getting retirees coming in, and there was just the marketing, the demographic of the marketing, everything has to be a fit, okay? So I want to show you now what I say is a great example of what I think is a very sad failed development, okay? A failed development and a successful development. Now, the best way to show this is let's compare exactly the same product. Okay, so I'm going to show you. This is one of my favorite builders, okay? They're called Blue Heron. They've had a meteoric rise. Meteoric. Don't get too excited. They're not going to build ever in Washington State. Chris, the president, they're not interested in coming here, okay? I just talked to the president of this company 2 days ago. This particular, if you look at this photo, this is right off of their website. And this is what these are 3-story homes, anywhere from 28 to get this demographic. This is very interesting. These houses are almost 4,000 square feet. So you can do 2-level or you could do a nice rooftop deck. So you got 3,900 square feet. All of these homes come with an elevator. All of these you would say are, you know, we're going to call it the luxury market. Okay. They have 3 plans. Okay. 3 plans that look exactly like this. All 3 plans were built in 2 locations. First location took off like a rocket. Opening, people lined up to buy. So what did they think? What does a builder typically think when they build a product that people walk in, oh my gosh, I love this plan. Oh my gosh, I love this. It's the best thing we've ever seen. You got press and media everywhere. Well, what you probably think is this worked. I want to do it again. So what they did is they did it again. And it's been a catastrophic failure. And I'm going to show you why. So this particular product, and we're going to talk about generations for a minute. I'm in a generation called baby boomers. So baby boomers, oftentimes they get to the point in their life where they say, you know what? I've worked hard. I want to have fun. So they will go out and buy a second home. And if it is a second home that gives them some recreation, some entertainment, some all kinds of cool things, if it's in the right community, they'll spend it. They will buy a 3,800 square foot home with an elevator, even if they don't need it, because that generation's got money and they're thinking about, hey, all my kids can come and enjoy it. So you would figure a 3,800 square foot home, the buyer demographic for this location called Shoreline, okay? So Shoreline, this demographic, this location, it's baby boomers. The average age of the person buying in this development is 61 years old. 61-year-old. What 61-year-old needs 3,800 square feet? 3 decks, I'll tell you, many baby boomers with bucks that, by the way, have just inherited a whole lot of money. We're going to talk about death in a minute. I've talked about divorce. We will talk about death, okay? So Shoreline worked beautifully. All these baby boomers bought this product. It's a booming project. So they decide, let's do it again. So they decided to do it again. So they decided to do it. So you're gonna notice this one here over here says Shoreline, and you're gonna notice this other circle over here. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because baby boomers are willing to pay for the location, the fact that they're by a lake, the fact that they go walk on trails. You can't just build a house and think the house is all it's about. But what the mistake was made was that they let the media and they let their traffic, their model home traffic, get to their heads. The amount of media on this, if you go onto YouTube right now and you type in Blue Heron Shoreline and you see There's not one real estate agent. There's probably 40 of them that have, for all over Las Vegas, that have come to this development to talk about it's cool, it's amazing, it's wonderful. So it went to their heads. They built it somewhere else. Well, guess what? In those areas, there aren't wealthy baby boomers buying 3,800 square foot homes. They're families. And even families are looking at, I don't need a house with an elevator. Us spoiled baby boomers will take it. It's cool. It's like, okay, I guess this will be good for when I get older, when I get my knee replacement, but it doesn't work. So you can't just build it. Now, I'm going to tell you that I love this builder, so I don't want to say anything negative. I'm just saying they got the demographic very wrong. What they should have done is shaved a minimum of 1,000 square feet, minimum. They should have built 2,500 to 2,700 square feet maximum. They should have built a home that was no elevator, no expensive sky deck, nothing cool and sexy, practical. Different demographics want different things. When I look at any development, or if I look at, let's say it's just a piece of land, first I look at the location, and then I ask myself, okay, in this location, what is this location getting in terms of price? Now, that doesn't mean, it does not mean you cannot build something in an area where you're competing and not win. I'm going to explain that a little bit later, okay? Is there privacy? What type, is there easy transportation? Is there room for outdoor spaces? If they're not, how can you give somebody the feel of privacy in an outdoor space, okay? What about what kind of design and finish could this area tolerate? Or what kind of design or finish could maybe be something new and exciting? Also, my favorite thing of all is floor plan flow. Floor plan, how do you make a floor plan dynamic enough that your buyer demographic will absolutely love it? And I'll tell you, it's the funniest thing ever. I have a slide on it. Some of you in this room know I'm building up at Semiahmoo. I'm building a development called Muirfield, okay? This development should not be able to sell for the price. If we just look at statistically, we should never be able to be selling it for $550 or $560 a foot. You shouldn't be able to. It doesn't make any sense. It's not Semiahmoo with a view, but it's got something that buyer demographic wants. It's very specific what they want, and I'll talk about it. I'm going to show you something a little later. Also, what amenities can this development have? And if it can't have many, you got to make a few. You can make a few very affordable amenities that you don't even realize people absolutely love. They love. Also, what is the character of this development? Biggest mistake, the kiss of death of a development, kiss of death. And if any of you are thinking of doing it, don't do it. Is you go out as a developer, you say, I'm going to buy this great big piece of land. And you buy it, and then you say, hey, I'm going to piecemeal it off, and I'm going to let 3 or 4 builders build in here. You can't get one builder to hardly do demographic profiling correctly. Try to get 3 or 4 of them together to do it. It's not, I have not seen it work. Also, what is the accessibility issues now in the future, depending on what that demographic is? So first and foremost, there's 3 things I always look at. The 3 things that are, oh, by the way, maybe I'll talk about death right now before I even get into this. This is important, okay? We are right now entering the largest passing of wealth in the history of our country, okay? And I'm going to show you generations in just a moment. Washington State is, believe it or not, listed as one of the wealthiest passing of estate funds in the country. So what's happening is, for example, I'm a baby boomer. What were my parents? My parents were silent generation. Silent generation, my mom talks all the time about how she lived through the Depression. And she talks to me all the time about how she had a potato, she had orange juice, and that's what they ate. I cannot even imagine, right? But I was also brought up by my dad, who lived in Greece and then immigrated here. What era was he from? What was it like in Greece? Think about being and living in Greece in the 1930s, 1940s. Well, let me tell you, dirt poor. I remember, this is just funny. I remember And this is so funny for those of you, this is my one quirk. I own a dishwasher. I don't use a dishwasher. My house came with a dishwasher. I don't use a dishwasher. And do you know why I don't use a dishwasher? Anyone can tell me why? Oh, no, it works great. It's brand new, practically.
Too expensive to run.
Nope, not too, but good guess. Because I grew up with a frugal father who said, because he didn't, dishwashers, when he came from Greece, over here, he's like, they have a machine to wash dishes. That's the laziest thing I've ever seen. Now it's efficient, it's awesome, but I grew up with that in my mind. And you got to remember, every generation grew up with special moments in time. If you ask some generations, if you ask my mom, my mom's generation about when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, she will be able to tell you exactly where she was the moment. If you ask me what I was doing the morning of 9/11, I know exactly what I was doing. I was supposed to be going down to Seattle to teach for the great big Windermere Symposium that they do every year. And I'm on the phone going, are we still having this? We had it. And here we are in the middle of 9/11, and I'm telling people in my class, go out and go see the news for a minute, come back in. And we basically just consult each other all day. But every generation has moments in time, right? So we are very driven by values. Even to this day, my parents' values very, very, my dad used to always say, interest is something that you earn, not something you pay. So why do you have a credit card? Interest is something you earn, not something you pay. And I remember being 18, I could go up in Canada and I got to get all those credit cards. I remember getting that wallet like they have in the American Express commercial. And I remember saying, Dad, I'm so proud I'm an adult. Look at, I got like 6 credit cards. And I thought he was going to cry. And he said, give me the credit cards. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm an adult. I'm 18 now, right? And he said, do you want to cut them up or do I want to cut them up? Because interest is not something you are going to pay. Because he said, by the way, you don't even have a good job. And I know how you like to spend. So no, you don't get a credit card. Save it up first. So I learned a lot, okay? So I'm very money conscious. I don't want you guys to lose a dime. I don't want you to lose a dime. So you have to think about these things, okay? Product, what's the product? What about the people? Problem solving, where do you start? I always start with the people. You show me a piece of land, I want to figure out who's going to be attracted to that piece of land. That's first, before you even think about lot size, before you think about any of this, okay? You have to think about the people. The little red dot in the middle is where you want to be. You have to think about the generation, who's going to live there. You have to think, what is their lifestyle like? You have to think about what kind of household formation. Is it a mother and child? Is it a father and a child? Is it single parent? Is it a couple with kids? Is it somebody that's retired? Who is it? What's the dynamic? Divorce, single, what is it? You also have to think about the functional needs. What does this type of product need in order to attract that type of demographic? Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the generations, okay? So we're going to talk generally, these are the generations right now that we're building for, okay? So the silent generation, born 1926 to 1945, that's where my mom and dad were born, okay? They are anywhere from 78 to 97 years old right now. My mom is 93. So my mom is really hardcore silent generation, hardcore, really hardcore. Spending a dime for her is really hard, okay? Baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, I'm right there. Gen Xers, 1965 to 1981, and so on and so forth. Okay, now what's important is each one of these generations has different values. They like different things in their homes. And by the way, for anybody who's taking photos, you can, no problem. I am happy to share this PowerPoint with anybody. So you just let Shauna know we are sharers, okay? So the thing is I also want to know, so for example, I go through there's many steps you have to go to get the demographic right, but we're going to start with just a little bit of lifestyle, okay? What about if what if it's a multi-generational development? Then you really got to think about that. But what do these people that live there like to do? Okay, so for example, a lot of silent generation people, my 93-year-old mother is probably not hiking or biking, okay? But she probably is reading. She probably does still like to do her little gardening in her little pot. She definitely likes to read, right? So that you have to look at these people. What are they actually doing? And also, by the way, if you want to know what people are doing, check the local community. For example, a friend of mine owns gyms all over Whatcom County. I talk to him about demographic profiling all the time. Who are your gym members? How far away from the gym do they live? Right? Because I will know right away whether development needs to have even a small gym. Do you know even a $12,000 gym? You could literally put together a $12,000 gym. It's called Gym in a Box. And for 12 grand, you could satisfy a demographic that absolutely needs something just to make them feel like they have something. Okay. We have to look at functional needs. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How much yard do they need? People don't need as much yard as they think they might need. However, that yard has to look like it has little vignettes of fun everywhere, right? What about office? What about private office space? More and more people are working from home. Also, most important is privacy. Do you know that if you are building for baby boomers and you're doing 3-bedroom houses and you're not giving each of the bedrooms its own bathroom suite, you are missing out on a huge opportunity? Then we got to look at household formation. Household formation is extremely important. Who's going to live there? So it's kind of like it's putting a puzzle together, right? It's kind of like going, okay, who might live here? Where might they come from? Who's going to be attracted to this particular location? What do we have to do to get the price point where we need it to be in order to make profit, in order to build the quality product we want? We also have to look at ability, and the ability has to match the demographic. Can it have stairs? Yes or no? Do you need to think about aging in place? And then if you do, you absolutely have to consider the width of your hallways. You have to think about threshold. You have to think about all of those aging in place things. Now, if I have an aging in place community, I want no fewer than 20 aging in place amenities. So a true aging in place community. If it's truly aging in place, you also have to think about marketing, okay? So as a consultant, people always laugh at me because I'm always, we're talking at meetings and stuff, and I'm always like, gotta think about the marketing. Well, what does all of this matter? How can this be marketed? Does it really matter to someone? If somebody wants to truly age in place, and by the way, a definition of aging in place is not just providing one shower that is, 0 threshold, but then the doorways are not wide enough for the walker and or the wheelchair. So you really want aging in place? There's a list of 20 universal things you got to have. Bottom line. By the way, true aging in place communities are absolutely incredibly successful. So many years ago, when I was consulting down in Las Vegas, I met a gentleman who was a doctor, and he was a pretty wealthy doctor, and he had a very wealthy friend who was a developer, and he had taken his mom to put her into assisted living. He put his mom in assisted living, and she lasted in there about 3 weeks. He walked in and he said, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I want her out of there." He took her, brought her into his home, realized very quickly that he could not really take care of her. Plus, she didn't want to be living with him. She said, "I'm not dying. I'm just old. I just want a nice place to live." So what he did is he decided to put together a true aging in place community. And they didn't have 20 things, they probably had 30. And what he did, he worked with the developer. By the way, they picked a piece of land that nobody would buy. Get this, failed previous project. Nobody would buy it. It wasn't the greatest location, but they solved the problem. And what they did is the doctor looked at this from the medical point of view. Developer looked at it from the developer point of view, and they built these small little cottage 1-level homes with an additional separate living area, so that in case a family member needed to come care for them, et cetera, et cetera. Then they had a service, it was incredible. They had a concierge service that went with their HOA, and it included that they had a registered nurse that would drive around in her golf cart in the community and give out all the pills, give out the needles, right? So they had registered nurse, they had a doctor on call, They had somebody that could walk the dogs. Their dogs, as people still wanted their pets, but wanted the dogs needed a little bit more activity than somebody with limited mobility. Long story short, that development was so well thought of with the demographic that not only did people buy, but the minute one of the units went up to sell, there, you want to talk about multiple offers? We're going to go back in time. The units were selling around 300,000. The first home that went up for sale had multiple offers at over $600,000. Because what did it do? Do you know who was rooting for this development? Not just mom, who wanted to live independently. Mom's kids who were going, heck yes, we want to buy this, because it still remained in that person, that aging elderly person was able to still own real estate. It was cheaper for them to live and own in a property that cost them $300,000 than it was to spend the $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $11,000 a month. Now, by the way, Whatcom County has a severe shortage of aging in place communities. Honestly, if we could build, anybody in this room interested, an aging in place community, I'm talking with 25 things in it. People want to, my mom's 93, she doesn't want to live in an assisted living facility. She wants to have her own home, right? She lives with my sister because that's the best thing we can do. Okay, so you have to think about all of these things. Price. Stop pricing things price per square foot. It drives me crazy, right? You got to think about what's the market demand. So for example, do you know right now in Whatcom County, you got to look at list to sale price ratios. You have to look at competing product types. So for example, Perry, you'll know this. If you go into the MLS right now and we pull up, what houses are selling at the highest list to sell price ratio? Where are we getting the most demand and fight for? It's going to be Ramblers, one level properties. People go crazy for them. Okay. I'm not saying to build them. I'm not here to sell Ramblers. I'm saying that you need to know in your area what it is. Do you know right now down in Arizona, there's a product type down there that people are like, I can't believe that anything other than a Rambler community would sell. Well, guess who's going down to Arizona? Arizona is not just for old people anymore. Arizona is for that young, vibrant, different generation. It's no longer just baby boomers. So you got to think about, you got to look at the area and say, what's the demand in this area? What are we missing in this area? What does the product type need to be? Also, how are styles changing? If you really want to know how styles are changing, go and work with large, for example, here's a great example. If you were to go to the Pinterest website, do you know that people in the West Coast, on their interest boards look completely opposite of the interest boards of somebody that is in Texas or somebody that's in New York. Design changes depending on the area. The next thing I look at is what problems do we need to solve? Okay, what are the problems here? What are the issues we have here? Okay, so what problems do each of these generations have? So I look at the generations and I say, okay, silent generation, they definitely are always thinking about money. They're always thinking about their health. Are they living in the wrong house right now? Probably. And if we can solve that, it's a fabulous generation to work with, believe it or not, because their baby boomer children do not want them in homes. Baby boomers, we are, unfortunately, this is so sad. We're what I'll call the sandwich generation. So I want you to think about my life. Okay, I got my mom over here on this side of me. Who's on the right side of me? My two kids. I have two kids. I've got a son and a daughter. My son's 27. My daughter's 27. My son's 31. My 27-year-old daughter, lucky enough, she started working for a builder a few years ago. She bought a home. She came to me and she says, Mom, I want to stay down here. I love California. I want to live here. And I want to buy a home. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? How are you going to buy a home? Oh, my job, I'll qualify. She did all the research because I'm a research person. I always tell my kids, don't just sell me with your mouth, show me with data. I got to see it, show it. So she showed me that if she were to rent something in the location she was in, it would cost her about $2,600 to $2,700 a month. Why? Because she happens to own 3 dogs. So what's the market of rentals for 3 dogs down in California? not too good. So if you got 3 dogs, you're going to pay more rent. So she said, instead, I can buy this new home, get it built, and my payment all in is going to be $2,400 and something. And lucky enough, she got her nice low interest rate. She's happy, she's set. Okay. What about my 31-year-old son? Who's he been brought up by? A mother that was brought up by a father that said interest is something you earn, not pay, right? So I've also said to my son, to both my kids, you got, before I ever help you, you got to save up your own money, right? Because I want them to be independent. So he's still saving money. It's real hard right now for 31-year-old kids to get out there and to compete. And here's why. Do you know that even when they're all ready to go, there's been 3 times where he's been ready to go. 3 times where I'm going to write an offer. And guess what's happened all 3 times? So my son, who has outbid him happily? Baby boom, another son whose baby boomer parents are saying, don't worry, we'll back you financially, right? Or baby boomers with bucks. Okay. Gen Xers, they are also, when we think about all of these generations, every generation has their own set of issues. Now we've got issues around working from home, childcare. Childcare issues are not getting better. They've actually gotten worse. And then we have the Gen Y, the millennials, that's affordability. It's affordability crisis for them. The other thing that we have to think about is, okay, digging a little deeper into the generations. Silent generation parents rarely purchase anything without talking to their kids, right? So my mom makes her decisions. She's got 5 kids, and it kind of looks like this. 9 in the morning, she calls Denise. 10 in the morning, she calls Debbie. 11 in the morning, she calls all the kids, gets this great big idea of things. And sometimes they're very different opinions. And then she's got to think it through. And then about a year later, she comes up with a decision. It's such a slow moving thing, and it drives me nuts because I'm faster. It drives me crazy. Okay. So this is just a funny story. A couple years ago, I helped my mom set up the most incredible trust. Okay. She's all set, ready to go. So a few weeks ago, my brother comes down and says to her, hey, Mom, do you know that if you were to give all us kids your money early before you die, that you're going to save so much money in tax? Actually, that's completely inaccurate. She lives in Canada, so inaccurate. But my brother thought it was a great idea because he heard it on a radio station. So I, of course, have to call my brother. Now my mom's, your brother's got a great idea. I said, yeah, but Mom, you're never going to give the money up anyways. You and I all know that you're never going to do that. She said, I know, but I still want to understand it. They still want that education. So then I got to take her and say, okay, here's the education. That's the silent generation. The silent generation, if you're going to have a demographic like this, it has to be so, like, for example, that my doctor friend that did this, it has to be so well laid out that it's designed also for a very analytical person, because somebody in that child mix is analytical. Baby boomers, okay? Baby boomers, are you kidding me? If you ask, baby boomers are the generation of multiple homes. Think about it. They have their primary home. They got a secondary home. They got a rental home. Then they're going to get into vacation rental homes. Heck, that worked good. Commercial space. It's multi-dimensional. They buy it all. They'll buy homes, no problem, for family members that need assistance. So we are the sandwich generation where we are the helpers. Got to help our kids, got to help our parents. The houses that baby boomers we are all about openness, and it's not just about having an open floor plan. There's a lot of things that go with it, but they also need space for stuff. Now, the older baby boomers are getting to the point of wanting to minimize, but they still want organized space. Something as simple as, and I'm talking simple, as super good quality closet systems, organizational systems. What people will actually pay for, depending on their generation, is extremely interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about death, we've talked about divorce. Now we have to talk about the third D, and that's drinking. Okay, we're going to talk about it now. Drinking, alcohol, drinking. Okay. Cheers, let's do it. Okay. This is incredibly crazy. I'm going to talk about this. So I have done a lot of work in a lot of different states, and I'm just going to tell you the two most amenity specific locations where people specifically want bars. Okay. First one is Palm Desert. You don't build a house in Palm Desert without a bar. You're not going to do it. You'd be there. Every house down there has a bar, right? And it used to be that, okay, that was in the days of Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, and all those houses are older. Oh, no, they're not. All the new stuff, every builder that I've ever worked with, if you look at Toll Brothers, if you look at all the nationals, Toll Brothers goes into the desert. They will take a plan that they've been using for years that's super successful. And what does it have to have? A bar. Now, can anybody think of a location in Whatcom County where people want a bar? It's the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. What location in Whatcom County? Yes, sir. What's that?
Yeah.
Bingo. That's a great, that's awesome. How did you know that?
I used to bartend out
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
there.
So-
In a former life.
Okay, you know what? I love that. Thank you so much for that, because people don't understand when I say this. Before I ever build anywhere, you have to talk to the people. You have to go sit. Do you know how many days I sat down at either the Simiama Golf Club, the golf course restaurant, or down at the bar at the Simiama Resort? What's it called? Packers, thank you. Do you know how many times I sat there to do nothing other than watch people? I did not know how much people drank in the middle of the day at Simiama. I'm shocking. 11:30. Yeah, can I have the regular, please? I'm shocked. I go to other places and no. When I was designing the houses at Simiama, I designed them with bars. People thought I was nuts. In fact, by the way, when I went to do that development, everybody said, "You're going to build what, where? And you don't have a view and you think you're going to sell it? Are you out of your mind?" Out of your mind? Demographic. I haven't held one open house there. Not one. Not one. And it's been successful, not because of anything other than getting the demographic right. You got to know the animal that's in your, you got to know them. You got to know them really well. Okay. When we think about what do people need, we got to solve their problems. Okay. Do they need a space potentially for parents or maybe a child returning home? If you do, you got to have a completely separate suite for them. And why not put in a very inexpensive, nice cabinet that has got an under counter fridge. Maybe it's got a little microwave, but it's enough so that if they want to just go retreat for the morning, they don't need to come out and wear their robe and go down to the bathroom. Like, design is actually design done right. It doesn't take more money. If you're designing a 2,500 square foot house, you're going to spend the same for engineering, whether it's good design or bad design. Why not have good design? By the way, people don't need big stuff. They need interesting things, right? So they need interesting things. So it could be an interesting wall system. It could be an interesting, just a little nook and cranny for organization, a little nook and cranny for a bar, a little nook and cranny for little extra space. What about a little area where people can have separate little office? It doesn't need to be a full big office. Okay. The next generation that we're building for are Gen Xers. And they are not, and I will say capital N, they are not waiting to get married to purchase real estate. They're not. Not to mention the fact I could talk, this by the way is probably about a 3-day class. So I'm really trying to just condense it. But I'll tell you that women are waiting later in life to get married. Do you know the average? I remember being 18 years old. And I remember graduating high school, getting my credit cards, getting them cut up by my dad. And then I remember on my 20, and that I was 18, between 18 and 21, my dad had a fantasy. And what was my father's fantasy for my life? I'm going to marry a Greek man. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids real quick. That didn't happen until much later in life, okay? Much later. So this generation, Gen Xers, they're waiting for a lot of things. They're waiting to get married. They're purchasing real estate. Do you know how many single people are buying real estate right now? Tons of them. The numbers are astonishing. But they want a different product. And they don't care about the things we cared about. So the type of house that I want to live in is very different than a Gen X house. But you still have to give them those things that are important to them. Also, they're buying everything. New homes, urban homes, family houses, buying resale, that is properties that look horrific. They will buy them and they will spend 3 years fixing them up. And they're even buying investment homes. I've done a lot of work down in the desert, and something happened during COVID, which was crazy, okay? Everybody called me up because they know I do work in the desert. Hey, I know you have vacation rentals down there. This is a great time. Vacation rentals are booming. I want to own vacation rentals. And I said to them, owning a vacation rental takes a lot. And these are my Gen X clients because they're very adventurous. They're a little bit of risk takers, think that they know it all and can do it all, unfortunately. And that's my kids included. And I would say to them, be careful. Don't go buying an investment home in an area that you know nothing about that may be booming because of COVID. But once COVID is over, then what happens? Millennials are really big into energy efficiency, space efficiency. So if you're going to build a home, know that. And also, by the way, right now in Washington State, we have our energy code is really
Terrible.
Yeah, who said that? Yeah, right. We got this crazy thing with the code. But there are some things within that this generation cares about. So use it in your marketing. Also, I follow money. I always have. Follow money is very interesting. Follow federal funds. Follow the federal funds to areas where the feds have said, yeah, we're going to invest there. Right? I remember back 10 years ago, in Eastern Washington, I remember telling some of my developer friends, you got to watch what's happening over in Moses Lake. You got to look at why are the feds putting in so much infrastructure money over in Quincy, Washington? Quincy, Washington have you guys been to Quincy, Washington?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not very big. It doesn't have a Costco. It's just Quincy. There's a place close to Quincy called Crescent Bar, what do we do in Crescent Bar? Everybody goes there to party, right? And we have a place in Crescent Bar. We don't go there to party, but my husband likes fishing there. But Quincy, why Quincy, Washington? Well, that's because do you guys remember all of the underground military sites they have over in Eastern Washington that were abandoned? They were using them, selling them to Dell for server farms, underground safe server farms. I remember one of the guys over there taking me on a server farm tour, and we drives me in the truck, he pulls up, and I'm like, well, I've never done a server farm before, and it looks just like a farm. He says, come on, we gotta walk. And we walked out a long way, and right in the middle of this field, he then unlocked this thing, lifted it up, and he said, let's go down. And I made it down approximately 4 steps. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I said, just go ahead, take my phone, give me a video. I didn't want to do it. And he was selling a server farm. Quincy, Washington, when you look at pricing over there and what's happened, follow the federal funds, follow transit. That's what we're following, even with the house bills right now. I've been following transit, what's happening down in Seattle for years. This generation, millennials, are very comfortable with ADUs, duplexes, triplexes, house hacking, right? Urban condos, they love it. They're the most flexible. Now, if you were to ask me to live in a duplex, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it for 3 reasons. Okay, how many people here think they're a baby boomer? Okay, so many of you. Tell me why you would not want to live in a duplex. A big lack of privacy. What else? Craig, what did you say? Did you say something?
Noise.
I said too close to your neighbor.
Too close to your neighbor. Lack of privacy. Lack of
control.
space. What's that?
Lack of control.
Lack of control of your neighbor. Baby boomers have already birthed, raised these children. They're out. We, baby boomers, by the time our kids are gone, it's me and you, babe. We don't want another set of kids next door. We don't want to hear their parties. So I see a lot of times people going, I'm going to build all these duplexes and my target demographic is baby boomers. I'm like, forget it. No, you're going to target this. Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about opportunities. Okay. There's lots of opportunities. We know that there's a lot of changes that are coming to real estate in Washington and Whatcom County. We know that the Department of Commerce, or some of you that don't know this, the Department of Commerce have come out with their numbers and they said they've done it for every county. Every county has to look at their comprehensive plans. They have to work together with every city within, like Whatcom County has to work with every single area, has to come up with their changes to the comp plan. And if you look at this, what's really interesting in Whatcom County, okay? PSH means permanent supported housing, yes.
They can't see just the green highlight.
See the number that I put in green? You're supposed to see that number because I'm bringing attention to it. Clearly, that's not you're not able to see it. So let's just pay attention to the 120%. That's the high end market, okay? Whatcom County needs 8,239 units. So that's what that green is. And I will make sure we'll get you a copy of this and you'll be able to, you can see it in print, but just not up there. Total for Whatcom County, we need 34,377 units. And I've done a whole thing on what does that mean? What locations, what area? That's too much information from today. But the bottom line is, you would have thought that in Whatcom County, we would say, well, wait a minute, we need all housing. We need all housing. But when I look at opportunities, I'm like, wait a minute, why? We have a lot of money in Whatcom County, which means that we have this housing, I'll call it landlocked. We have these sellers, especially these baby boomers, that they've lived in their big houses. For example, right now, I live in a house that's 3,400 square feet. It's on Weiser Lake. It's a lovely house. It's a 2-story house. It's a lovely house. Where do I spend 90% of my time? On the main level. My master bedroom's on the main level, my kitchen, my this, everything's on the main level. And I say to my husband all the time, boy, because of my father and my mother, right? Look at all the heat we're spending going red. I've got a 2-story house. I don't use it. So I'm a typical baby boomer that I definitely would be in the market to move. But where do I want to move to, right? We don't have, in Whatcom County right now, we don't have enough. We've got some spot housing. We don't have enough luxury communities. So we're missing in that market. We also do not have enough affordable housing. So my son can't buy and I can't buy. 2 generations, right? So 2 demographics right now in Whatcom County that are underserved. So so if you're a builder or developer and you came to me and said, what should I build? I would say, stop building that stuff you're doing all the time that isn't working for you. Really look at this demographic a lot more carefully. The other thing is that the baby boomers are getting older. What happens to people when they get older?
A drink.
They die and they drink, right? Yes, they die and they drink. So what happens is, first of all, when people get older, they get extremely specific about what they want and how they want it.
What do you want to drink?
All of it. I think maybe they get less specific about drinking. Just give me a drink. We'll have to ask our bartender, right? So we have the graying of America. We have 18 million more people 65 or older. Now, here's a great opportunity. There's this funny age group that's about 60 to about 68 years old. This funny age group. They're smart. They have learned from their mistakes. They have learned from their lessons of life. They want what they want. They will pay for it as long as they know it's fair and reasonable. They'll overpay for some things, but not everything. This age group is a phenomenal age group. Just so happens we're not building those type of houses that they want and need in Whatcom County. We also have something else. We have this affluent immigration base, no matter what you think about immigration. And by the way, just so that you know, there's a chart I did not bring in here. We have, there's another chart about negative immigration, and you will see that immigration from the southern border is negative now and has been for, we're seeing that number go up. We're seeing this wealthy demographic come in. We are seeing wealth of very wealthy, Brazil, India, China. Let me tell you what happened down in Bellevue, okay? Down in Bellevue, there's a beautiful new building down there. And it was marketed. It was marketed actually in China. It was sold, I would say 94 to 95%, almost 95% of that building was sold to the Asian market. What they did is they were legacy buying. They bought those units, and then what they do with them? They sat in the building, they sat on those units. The whole entire building, except for a few units, sat empty. What that created was a big problem because, first of all, there was a housing challenge down in Bellevue as well. But there's another problem when anything sits empty, and what is it?
Homeless.
Okay. Did you say homeless, squatters? Okay. So now, so they had that issue. They had, so just because you pay for something to be maintained doesn't mean it does get maintained. So what they were doing in those units as well is they were leaving what off? No heat, no light, no water. Everything was basically shut off. And that was basically wealthy immigration. We have a lot of wealthy immigration right now coming from Brazil, from India, and China. Lots of it. And I mean lots. Yes, sir.
How much of that do you think is
Well, let me tell you about the BC. I'll tell you all about the BC market, and I got 60 seconds to do it. I was working in the BC market at the moment in time where the government, the federal government up there, decided that it would be a really good idea to allow people to come into Canada and they could basically pay to play. That means if you could come in and invest, and at that point it started at 150, it was so low that then they moved it to 250. But for $150,000, all you had to do is come into Vancouver, and you could, if you bought a piece of real estate, we would give you immigration status in Canada. I was working in Canada when that happened. Let me tell you, I would say that, in my opinion, it decimated the Richmond market, decimated the market because, by the way, because I can talk about healthy communities, right? What happened there is it forced people that lived in Richmond to have to move out of Richmond. And what you had basically, I would say, hundreds of thousands of immigration status purchases made in the Lower Mainland within about a 12-month period. It decimated the market up there. So local people couldn't buy, because what happens when you have that much demand? House prices went up. Do you know a traditional 100 by 33 square foot lot in Vancouver right now is just the lot, $2 million. So here's the problem. So my nieces, my nephews that live up there, to buy anything right now in Vancouver, I believe the federal government, they don't do it now they're restricting it, but I think that they ruined the market up there because of that one decision. So I think it was terrible.
Well, then they put the 15% luxury tax on foreign investors because they were running the same problem.
Yeah, and you know what that did? That was just as stupid. Because guess what? If I'm coming, for example, if I'm coming from China, and I'm also affluent, I'm super affluent because there's tons of money. And they also, here's the other thing. Why do people that live in China want to get their money out of China and into the USA? Because it is a communist country and they can take money out for the purposes of buying real estate. And any country in the world that allows it. Now, I study real estate all across the globe because you have to understand. Go look at what Australia did. Australia, I love Australia. I want to go there so bad. I'm just scared of spiders. I want to go there so bad. But in Australia, what the government there did is they said, sorry, you're not doing this anymore, because they were coming in. Unfortunately, the buyers from China were coming in and buying so much of their real estate because it's a safe way for them to park their money. So it decimated, I'll tell you right now, because I have family in Vancouver, decimated Vancouver. Although I love Vancouver, it was the stupidest decision federal government ever made. So that's how I feel about immigration. You gotta be very careful because it actually, my son, who would also like to live in Canada, there's no way. You can't. Starter home, 2.5 million, come on. Also, we have a changing household formation. We do not just traditionally have, this back from the 1950s, and living in a household that's a traditional one man, one woman household. We don't have it anymore. We have people that are divorced. We have people that are single. We have people that are doing creative living environments. We also have something called the rise of suburbans, which is urban suburbs, what's in the middle. And you have to look at these things. You have to look at, is my community very urban? Is it suburban? Or can we make it somewhere in between? And there are some things that you can do in a community to add the things that people want. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what is it that people want? Okay, what do they want? Most importantly, when you're thinking about any development, you have to think about the cross-generational person, right? Think about the cross-generational buyer, which means that you might have buyers that are baby boomers. What am I going to do in case they have a child that wants to come to the home and visit? What if they have a parent that wants to come and stay? So just having a home that's one master on the main, and then the other bedrooms are upstairs is not going to cut it for me as a baby boomer. My mom's going to come and visit. Where am I going to put her? So you really got to think about those things, right? You have to think about a well thought out plan, not just a floor plan. What's the indoor space? What's the outdoor space? Is there an option in this house, if needed, for 2 workspaces or 2 private spaces? Are there? Okay, are they also a little bit separated? Because you don't just want 2 workspaces side by side. You got 2 people talking, it's a disaster. Is there a separate living space in case you need mom to come visit or dad to come visit or one of your kids to visit, right? Are you going to be, and by the way, the ADU boom is coming to Bellingham. Get prepared. It is coming. I was very, very honored to get in the contest that they just had, ADU contest. My plan was, I designed a plan very quickly. And I thought about how can I design the perfect multi-generational ADU that if mom came to visit, or if a child was living there, or that people could live separately. And I was very happy at the awards ceremony to be honored for that design, because I designed it thinking I had no location in mind. I had to design a plan based on generations, right? So generational thinking is super important. Also, young singles and couples will give up certain things more so than any other type of household, okay? So that basically what this means is, okay, what are they willing to trade off? What will they give up to improve their work from home space? Do you know how important work from home space is for this younger buyer? It is monumental. They will give up a lot of things. Now, baby boomers won't give up much. They just won't. They want what they want. Okay, now I want to talk about parks and how important parks are. And let's say you're in a development with absolutely no park. I will tell you right now, tell your engineer to find a space within your plan for some park. I call them pocket parks, and they're like a pop-up park or just a small park. You can take a very small place and make it look so incredibly cute and whatever. Pocket parks are so important. Also, don't put a play park if your demographic is not families with kids. I know this is going to sound awful, but this is the truth, okay? Baby boomers, as much as we love kids, we don't necessarily want to hear them screaming out our door on the jungle gym outside. And the biggest example of this, so be careful what you put in your developments. A very good friend of mine, Jerry Peterson, was developing a huge development down in Las Vegas. And he was developing luxury. His target market was baby boomers. So I go down to see the development and he says, what do you think? And I said to him, Jerry, the demographic is wrong. I feel like I'm coming to, I walk in the units, they're luxury, it feels good, but I said the outside feels almost like a school play area. And he says, well, they put a lot of money into their outside kids adventure thing. I said, Jerry, it's right in the middle of everything. It doesn't matter what unit I walk in. I look out the windows and I'm seeing kids playing, which means I'm hearing kids playing. I'm not anti-kids. I love kids, okay? I said to him, Jerry, you got to tear it down. I want you to rip it down. I want you to put in for me, not anything for kids. I want you to put in pet comfort stations. I want you to put in pet washing stations. I want you to have a trail for pets. I want you to, we're going to make it all about pets. He said, you got to be crazy. We calculated, this could be about $1 million to take it all out, bring it all in. Now, the way I'm talking, what I wanted was really cool for dogs, right? Not just like a paper bag that you pick up poop. I'm talking high end, okay? Because it's luxury. And he was wanting to sell these things for more money. I said, Jerry, if you don't do it, you're going to lose millions and millions of dollars. Millions. And then I said, we have to change the marketing plan. We're going to put billboards up in Vegas. And the billboards are not going to be of people, Jerry. They're going to be of dogs. And we're going to find a pretend dog mascot. We did a little bougie, little fluffy dog named Fifi. We got Fifi the dog, but then the first one was it was all about the community, right? Look at what Fifi gets at Boca Raton, right? Then it was like Fifi had a friend named Buster. Oh, here's Buster hanging out by his little water pool. Here, long story short, all the people that were coming from this development were coming from LA to come to Vegas to have a second home. And the last thing they wanted was screaming kids out their door. Now that's a pretty hard thing to tell a developer. Spend $1 million because I just got a gut feeling. But if I go and look at, remember I said earlier, failed developments have clues. They have clues. I said, Jerry, I want to show you a development in Texas and Arizona. I want to show you some failed developments. And I'm going to show you what it took to fix them. Failed developments have clues and clues always have solutions. So he did it. It was the most successful, the ad campaign alone, won every ad campaign in Vegas. Boca Raton sold out. That guy sold that development out. He had a lineup of people buying because, oh, by the way, when you came in to buy, we also had beautiful custom dog beds made. Every unit had a dog area that was made because also the laundry rooms were these big, stupid, massive laundry rooms. I said, Jerry, whoever designed these plans, the first flaw was the laundry rooms. I said, these laundry rooms, what do you think these people have? 5 children? These are family-sized laundry rooms. We're in Vegas. People are basically wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Like you got the wrong laundry room. I know it sounds crazy, but something as simple as a laundry room is a big deal, okay? So he spent the money and he was very successful. Wrong demographic, you had to fix the demographic. Okay, when you're thinking about any park amenities, think about these things. I'll tell you right now, as crazy as it is, people are nuts for pickleball.
They are nuts for pickleball.
They've lost their minds for pickleball. Down in the desert, there's like, everything's Monday morning pickleball tips. Tuesday is pickleball practical day. Wednesday is lunch and wine and then pickleball. That's fun, I'm sure. Do you know that my development that I own in? So I own some houses down in the desert. I have a calendar. We have a calendar of events. Oh, that's not good enough. I just got mailed the pickleball calendar. I have 2 calendars. Why can't we just put the pickleball in one calendar? Because there are people that are like, I just do pickleball. I don't need all these other events. Because they can combine all this other stuff. Oh, there's yoga and pickleball on Friday morning. So come and stretch out for yoga, then we're doing pickleball. People are crazy. So if a developer that's doing a big enough place says to me, what should we put? You might want to think about that. Also, think about this. Something as simple as where you put a mailbox. Do you know that people don't want to walk across the street to get their mail? Do you know that, the services, baby boomers and silent generation are very, very spoiled. But one of the biggest things that we're lacking, even when you think about up at Semiahmoo, groceries. We don't have groceries. We don't have enough services. People, they're dying for it. So you just have to get it right, okay? Now, I want to talk about what I did up at Muirfield, just to talk about it. So when I decided to put Muirfield together, what I knew I wanted there, I had to think about what's my demographic. And my demographic that I was going for was baby boomers, baby boomers, baby boomers, okay? So first of all, I know they want a nicer finish. I know they want a little more quality. And I have to think about all these things, okay? I have to think about, okay, the generation, the price point, the lifestyle, the functional needs. And I have to think about challenges with the site. Muirfield is at Semiahmoo with no view. There's no view in my development. So I want to get top dollar. In order to get top dollar, you got to build it right. You have to build it right, okay? So I thought about the generations, okay? Most likely an older Gen X. Core is the baby boomer, but you always have that you always have to think about, okay, in the event my baby boomer has a Gen X child or a silent generation parent, how can I make this work for them? Even making sure, like even on my, thinking about, maybe I'll just do slab. Maybe that's going to zero threshold entry. Maybe that'll be better, right? Thinking about that, got to think about, cost. Also, what's their lifestyle? These are active adults. These people are smart. They're professional. They're retired, but many of them never will retire. They still have these businesses that they pop into. You got to be smart. These Semiahmoo people are interesting people. They're into sports and they're into drinking and they're fun people. Restaurants, right? We don't have enough good restaurants up there. It's close to Canada. What else are you going to get? Canadians. One of my new buyers that just came in is Canadian. Right? We've got a lot of Semiahmoo people that live there that still want to live there, but want something. So functional needs, what do we need? We've got to have bedrooms that all have private bathrooms. Kiss of death if you don't. You got to have high ceilings. You can't scrimp out on your windows. And it's got to be quality. They'll pay for quality. But where we really got it right, the demographic right, okay, is giving them some options. And I'll talk about this, okay? And these are not inexpensive homes. They're not. But how do you get people to pay that price? If people see quality, if they see it and they feel it, they'll pay for it. But I had to solve a lot of problems there. First and foremost was the site. So it's not the best location. It is across from the golf course and down a little bit, but it's got no view. Do you know how many people told me, Semiahmoo, no view, you're going to go broke? Not if you get the demographic right. We deal with problem sites every day. Do you know how many bad pieces of property that there are? Oh my gosh, there's tons of them. There's always solutions, okay? By the way, think about this. There are failed developments right now in our county that are beautiful locations. Think about that. Beautiful locations. I think about them all the time. I want to cry. They're gorgeous locations, beautiful views. But the product is not the right demographic, and the market will not tolerate. If you fail the demographic, you're out. I had to think about a multi-generational plan. I had to think from a work from home option. I had to think of single level, low threshold. I got to think also about if somebody's going to age there, if they have a walker, if they have a wheelchair, like what do I got to think about those things. Wider doorways or hallways, really think about that. Also privacy, some level of privacy. Large kitchens, but not large working kitchens. This is interesting. Large, dramatically attractive kitchens. Baby boomers are little show-offs. They've made it, they'll show off. Also storage, ample storage. Every single one of the closets has a system, not just a rod, not just no wire. I'm talking about, now I'm not saying, I can build a product. I just designed one, 1,000 square feet, really inexpensive to build, but it's the interesting things you put in it, right? So I had to think about storage. I had to think about indoor, outdoor living. But the most important thing I had to do for that demographic, baby boomers are spoiled. They want what they want. You give them what they want. You give them choice and selection. They will be great. So typically you go into this is the garage at Muirfield. Okay. Yeah, we can see site plans. We see floor plans. That's not why people go crazy when they go in there. It's because I've said to them, here's the floor plan. Let's make it what you want. Let's have some customization. You can take any one of these homes. Do you know that everybody in this room has a different design style? And what does the builder do? Builder builds for one design style. One style. And they walk in, they see the model. I like it, it's pretty, but yeah, I'd never have walnut cabinets, I want something else. Do you know that's really just like painting a brush and saying, hey, what about seeing this house 6 different ways? Customization is extremely, extremely important. And then you have to think about, I would say the biggest mistake people make, and that is looking at price, like, okay, when you get value for someone, you give them value based on their values, you will increase profit. If you are building just for price, you will be leaving lots of profit on the table. Okay, now I've got 4 minutes, and do you guys kick me out right at 10, or do I have time for questions or? Okay. Okay, so I close just some closing thoughts, and then we can turn the light on. Some closing thoughts are, we're all on the same team. We really are. I love Whatcom County. I want every builder, every developer here to win and make money. We have to, I really want us to share more. That's why if I have it in my head, I'm happy to share it. I also think we need to be more honest about what hasn't worked. Okay, so if you think about your career as you know it and think about all the things you've done, I bet you everybody in this room can think of a time when they got it right and a time where they or someone they're working with got it wrong. And I just want to share, a time where I feel, I'll share one of my clients, Jerry, my client, very successful man, the one with the dog situation, okay? I'll tell you when he got it right and when he got it wrong. So he got it right in Vegas, okay? And then after Vegas, he got out of Vegas, didn't hear from him for a number of years. Him and his wife moved down to Arizona, big, beautiful house. She went on a trip to Italy. She went on a trip to Italy. So she came back and she said, hey, I want to have a discussion with you. And she said, we want to do a Tuscan-inspired development in Arizona. And I said to her, well, here's the problem. Tuscan-inspired designs in Arizona were really popular in the early 2000s, but no, Arizona is going extremely modern. I don't think you should do it. Jerry calls me back and he says, listen, I love you, but I either got to listen to you or I got to listen to my wife. What am I supposed to do? I said, well, do me a favor, give her all her Tuscan-inspired things she wants, but don't let her choose those paint colors she wants. They're way too Tuscany, right? Long story short, doesn't listen to me. His wife doesn't listen. No problem. That's okay. It's their free will to do it. And the development absolutely fell flat. It was so bad they could not rectify it by going in and trying to de-Tuscanize it, because when you Tuscanize something, you're adding a lot of stuff to it. Okay. They ended up selling the development to somebody that was going to come in and fix it, and they lost a lot of money on that development. The point I'm trying to make is that why lose money if you don't have to? Really ask yourself more about, not so much about what am I building, but who am I building for? The demographic is extremely important. Okay, did I do good? I was right on time, 8:30 to 10. I was really on time. Okay, any comments or questions? You find that interesting, helpful, insightful? Are you glad you came here for spend an hour and a half of your life? Did you learn? No, you're my guy. You're my banker. I love you, Jeff. Yay, people. I love people. Am I not allowed to say that? Okay.
One question that should be fully, you start talking about the transfer of wealth.
Oh, yes.
Do you have a statistic on how much wealth potentially?
Oh, actually, I can get you numbers. Yeah, there actually was a study done about how many people in what, it's all based on our census and our age. Not only, and you take a percentage, and how they calculate it is, okay, what percentage of people are hitting this age point? And for men, it's a little bit of a younger age than it is for women. And then they take, where did they live and what's the home ownership rate in that area? So if home ownership rate in Whatcom County is 64%, and let's say it's 68 in Skagit, they do it all based on that. And then they look at what's the median sale price in that area. And then they look at the fact that the person that age, less than 2% of them have any mortgages on the property. So there's this huge passing of wealth. So I can get you more information on that because it's coming. It's a wave of money, a wave of it. Yes, good question. Yes.
What tools do you use to study demographics?
Okay. Everything. You have to look at everything. So tools, so I'll tell you some of my favorite things. I love the Department of Commerce. I love the US Census Bureau. I love looking, oh my gosh, there's probably, don't I have a paper on that? Of all my favorite sites?
Yeah,
I think I do.
it's been a
If you
while.
give me my card, I'll give you my favorite places, but I look at things like, the other thing I really look at is where's the flow of money? What are people willing to pay? Like what type of housing is getting top dollar? Where, what kind of styles? Because even if you look at now, yes, things are going more modern, you have to be careful not to go too modern, it's got to be kind of a hybrid. So you have to look at price points, you have to look into the MLS. I spend a lot of time looking at the MLS, looking at our list to sale price ratios. I also look at our pending, I look at our inventory versus pending numbers. How is that pushing that price up? You got to look at age of people. You've got to look at, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Then you have to look at design trends. Also, I'll classic example, just because it's new and wonderful doesn't mean it is. So at the Builder Show 2 years ago, there was this refrigerator. Media was there. Everybody was talking about it. The big thing was this darn refrigerator at the Builder Show. So I'm looking at this refrigerator and I'm like, it's great for new product. And it was one of the winners of the new product of the show, right? Everybody loved it. It got so much discussion. So what did all these showrooms do? All the showrooms ordered the stupid fridge in. Guess what? It's expensive. My son isn't going to buy it. My daughter's not going to buy it, which means you're going to sell it to me. And what it was a failed fridge. And it was a failed fridge because when you add too much technology to the baby boomer client, they don't want it. So I study stupid things like this. The other thing I study real estate done well in other areas, new construction done well. My favorite places by far, I study a lot of new construction in Vancouver. I study new construction in Australia. I really follow the California market very strongly because we also have a huge number of people coming from California because of, I study things like how are fires affecting things? How's the environment affecting things? By the way, insurance, how is it when we saw what happened down in Miami, I talked about it everywhere I went and said, just watch. Insurance in Washington State is about to change right now because of this. I'll tell you the funniest story. This is the craziest story ever. We're going to talk about insurance. I'm about to close on one of my properties up at Muirfield. Do you know what our delay has been? Insurance. The insurance says to my buyer, wait a minute, you don't have furniture in the house yet. It's new construction insurance, lady. Don't you realize that? Oh yeah, I realize that, but we have a new insurance thing out now on new construction that there should be furniture in the house. I said, well, where is this coming from? So it's coming from their head office down somewhere in California. It was an error, but it cost me 10 days. Who's paying the interest on that 10 days, stupid insurance? I am. I cannot even tell you what's about to happen in insurance. You will see it's coming. Also, condo insurance, oh my gosh. How difficult condo insurance is right now, it's another nightmare. You could do a class on insurance. Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to think in Whatcom County of a planned community with a target demographic of 55 to 70, let's say, age bracket, that has those things that you were talking about, including single family or single floor
Yes.
amenities, walking space. I can't even think geographically where it would go in other than maybe North Bellingham Golf Course around there or something like that.
Well, there actually are, I'll tell you where. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about a frustration I have. There's a lot of areas, but city council and our planning departments need to get it together. So that's why I'm starting to speak very openly about my thoughts on this, because we have the ability, we have the land. But I'll tell you, I have personally done very lengthy, incredible reports trying to convince certain areas, build it. They don't want it. I've heard people, I've literally heard people in planning departments say stupid things like, we don't want that kind of people here because that's going to be families. We don't want it. Or that's going to be older people. We don't want it. I cannot even tell you what I've heard.
I mean, that's Cordata, right? I mean, that's the closest we have.
We don't want Cordata. Cordata is too old. We want a place where you and I we can all go have fun, live happy ho ho, have our bars in our houses, gotta be a little bit more active, but it's gotta look good. There is lots of land out there, but what we have to do is we have to also, we gotta fight. We as a builder group, let's say, we have to stand together and speak up because we've got the land. Give us the approval we need. We have it right now.
By the way, the wealth transfer in the US, 78 trillion.
Oh, and maybe more. Isn't that incredible? The amount of money that's coming our way? Wow. Yes, sir.
Your list talked about no bathtubs, okay? In certain age groups. Are walk-in tubs or hot tubs as an amenity?
How about this? How about this? How about you give them an option? So right now, whenever I have a buyer, let's say at Muirfield, I'll ask this question. I'll say bathtubs are extremely personal. Some people want a walk-in shower with absolutely no threshold. Some people want a big luxury soaker tub. Some people want a steam shower. And some people want a bathtub shower combination that they can walk into. It's more expensive. By the way, here's the menu. What would you like? And do you know what's really interesting? Like traditionally, we used to say this, oh, for resale, at least one of the bathrooms has to have a bathtub. Okay, well, that's fine. So you go into my model, there isn't a bathtub in the house except the soaker and the master. So my master is a beautiful, nice, fancy tub, but none of the other bathrooms, they're all showers. People want more showers and they want nice showers. They want nice stuff, right? So you have to give people options because yes, one of the most popular things right now are the zero threshold walk-in bathtubs. Now they're expensive, but they're not that expensive. What a great solution for somebody aging in place. I'm surprised what people spend their money on. And then not surprised, if that makes sense. People just, well, absolutely, I want it. Give it to me. Yes, boom, 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 tick, tick, tick. Okay. They don't even question it. They don't even question it. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then get the heck out. Go, you're free. Thank you guys very, thank you.